Alright, this is section A.5. The A stands for appendix, so it's in the back of the book. This is day 1. There will be multiple days for this, solving equations. Alright, our objective for today is to find the real solutions of linear equations and factorable quadratic equations algebraically. Now, first of all, linear equations, well, it's equations that can be written in the form ax plus b equals 0, okay, where the a and the b are real numbers. Alright, so you probably don't normally do this in solving these, but anyway, that's what you could do if you wanted to. Okay, now first of all, this first example, let's not start with a super easy equation. Let's start with something a little bit complicated. And, well, it's got fractions in it. So in my opinion, if I see fractions in an equation, most of the time what I'm going to try to do is eliminate those fractions. And by looking at the denominators, 2, 3, and 2, hopefully you look at that and very quickly decide that 6 is the least common denominator for all that. So that's basically what I'm going to multiply both sides by. So LCD equals 6. So then I throw a 6 out there and I distribute to both sides of the equation. And by doing so, the 6 multiplies by the 5 halves. The 2 and the 6 reduce down to a 3. 3 times 5 that's left over gives me a 15x. Alright, the 6 distributes to the 8, gives me a 48. 6 multiplies by the 4 thirds, gives me an 8, with the x hanging along for the ride. And then 6 times a half is 3. Alright, so from here I've got this, and what I could, again, is put it into the ax plus b equals 0 form, but admittedly that's not the most convenient form for solving, so I'm not going to do that even though I could. So here we go. I'm going to subtract 8x from both sides, leaving me with a 7x plus 48 equals 3. Okay, hopefully not too much of a challenge. Just subtract 48 from both sides at this point and get a negative 45. And then don't freak out if this happens, but I'm going to divide through by the 7 now and get negative 45 sevenths. Alright, my personal opinion is that fractions are far superior to decimals, especially in this case, because with a denominator of 7, you're going to have to take it to 6 decimal places before the thing starts repeating, and as a rule, I don't want you to ever round a decimal unless it says so in the directions. That being said, fractions are most of the time a much better choice than decimals. Alrighty, but there is the first one. Alright, so let's move on to one that might look a little nastier, but honestly I don't think it is too bad. Alright, so first thing, I'm going to look at this thing and go, hey, I think that's linear, because even though there's a whole lot of multiplication going on, never do I multiply an x by an x. I'm never going to generate an x squared, so it still will fit into my ax plus b equals 0 format if I'd like to do so. But again, I probably really don't want to do that. So really again here, all we have to do is a little bit of distribution, 30x plus 42. Okay, the big thing here is just careful when you distribute here. Negative 24x. I know it's easy to say plus 15 here, but remember that minus sign carries through. So just for emphasis, I'm going to make that as a minus sign in red. And then the 15. And then you can just keep going. 4x minus 36 plus 11. Alright, and again, I have a mess here, so just to clean it up, I just combine my like terms. So 30x minus 24x is a 6x, and then 42 minus 15. Most days of the week, I think, is about 27. Okay, and then over here I've got a negative 36 and a positive 11. Those guys will get together and give me something like a negative 25. Alright, and then from there I do basically what I did in the last one. I'll subtract the 4x from both sides and get a 2x, and if you permit me to do so, I'm going to subtract the 27 from both sides, giving us a negative 52. And finally, just dividing by 2, I'll get a negative 26. Okay, so don't be scared if it's really big to start with. It should trim itself down in a big hurry. Alright, so let's move on to the factorable quadratic equations. Of course, you know there's quadratics that don't factor, but today we're going to focus on the factorable ones. I didn't make a big deal about this, at least in the notes, but quadratic, of course, means x squared. So in case that didn't pop in your head initially, as soon as you see quadratic, it means you have an x squared equation, much as we have right here. Okay, now the deal with factorable ones is whenever it is factorable, at least we think it's factorable, best idea is to basically smash all the terms onto one side. My rule of thumb is I like to have my squared variable being positive, at least the coefficient to it. So what I'm going to do here, because I don't have a 0 on one side, I want a 0. So I'm going to subtract the 33 from both sides. I have minus 33 equals 0 here. And then just some good old basic reverse FOIL factoring. Very quickly, it should give me an x, and then a minus 3 and an x plus 11. Okay, and then remember, basically all that comes into play here is that zero product property. When you have something times something else and you got 0 as the answer, it means maybe the first guy is equal to 0, but if not, that means the second guy's got to be 0. And of course, we want to consider both possibilities. So here we have a positive 3, and from this guy we get a negative 11, and both of those are valid answers. Now let's move on to another factorable quadratic. Now the problem with this one is that we've got a coefficient on the x squared. Some people get freaked out by that. What's good about this one is we have the 0 already, so that does save us a little bit of work, but alright, having the coefficient on the x squared makes some people freak out. Hopefully you are not one of those people. But there are several different methods for factoring those, and if you're not comfortable with one, I'm happy to show you a couple more in class and see if one feels better to you than another. But anyway, here we go. 3x squared has got to be broken into 3x and x because 3 is prime. Of course, if that 3 was something like a 6, I could go 3 and 2 or 1 and 6, and I'd have to play around with that until I figured it out. But whatever the case, I'm going to break up that 8 as a 4 and a 2, and then using the appropriate signs. Of course, this plus sign means the signs down below have to be the same, and then looking at this minus sign lets me know, okay, well, it's got to be a minus 4 and then a minus 2. Okay, remember to FOIL to double check that you got it right, but there it goes. Again, same basic idea. I've got 3x minus 4 equals 0, the first factor, or the second factor, maybe he's the 0. And then again, just solving those two little equations, which notice they fit that linear form. We should have x equals 4/3 out of the first guy, and then 2 out of the second guy. Again, leave it as that fraction. Decimals are just a pain. I got another one that is a little bit funny. Got this quantity squared, and well, basically, okay, well, first, before I get too much further, if you want to really annoy me, tell me that x minus 6 quantity squared is x squared plus 36. I will just be very annoyed at that. Okay, remember, basically what that means is I do have to FOIL that guy out. So, I don't know, hopefully you don't need to go through showing me the x minus 6, but if you do, hey, more power to you, and I'll be happy either way. But I would love for you to look at the x minus 6 squared, and have you immediately think, oh, that's x squared minus 12x plus 36. Alright, then I'll bring that 8x down. Alright, now that I've got kind of a polynomial here on the left, I can bring the 8x to the other side by subtracting it off both sides and get x squared minus 20x plus 36 equals 0, and then I have a much more friendly situation that I can factor. And throwing down some parentheses, I should have an x minus 2 and an x minus 18. And again, double checking it really quickly in my head, I see that I'm good. So, and hopefully I can skip the two little equations here and just give you 2 and 18. Alright, there you go. So basically the moral of the story on this one is, please, if you see something that's messy, just clean it up and get yourself into a format that works better for the system you're trying to use. Alright, now here's our assignment. Section 8.5, again, the A stood for appendix, so it's in the back of the book, so that page A56, of course, look in the back of the book for that. Okay, we got these problems right here, and I'm not going to waste my time writing odds 3,000 times during the year, so if I don't say something, it's odds. If I want you to do all of them, I'll actually go through the trouble of writing the word all. But there it is, and if you have any questions, of course, ask me in class. I'll see you there.